They started holding courts. They started having, what do you call those, inquisition, and what was the McCarthy hearing type of things? Those kinds of, huh?
Witch hunts, right?
Like a witch hunt. So what they started doing is started going to ulama and said, what do you say? Right? And they would bring them in front of the Khalifa, and they would have chains and guards. And what happened? Most of the ulama, they left. The ulama that were on haqq, right? Like Imam Shafi'i and many other ulama, they left. They left the area the Abbasiyya controlled, and they went towards Egypt and other areas that were not under the control of the Abbasiyya. Some of the ulama, may Allah forgive them, they sold out. Some of them truly sold out, some of them only sold out in words, but in their heart they still had the right Aqidah. There was only 2 people left upon the Aqidah at that time. Who were? Muhammad bin Nuh. Muhammad bin Nuh died in the earlier times. So who are you left with? One alim. I mean, many of the general public still had the right Aqidah, but from the ulama there was only one left. So he was brought and he was imprisoned and he was beaten, and it's a long trial, and inshallah if the brothers have time, it's good if you read this to understand the sacrifice that's gone into defending the Islamic Aqidah. In the end, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal victorious, and he destroyed the Mu'tazila, and he destroyed their power over the Khulafa, and alhamdulillah that this idea of the Quran being makhluq basically finished. I don't know if anybody today openly saying this, although there is some accusations about some groups, but openly I've never heard anybody say it today. And the Aqidah that was of all the Immatul Muslimin, which was also the Aqidah of the Sahaba, that the Quran is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without indulging into what about the paper and the letters and this. We don't get into these things. So, alhamdulillah, the Mu'tazila eventually fabricated into 20 separate sects, each pronouncing kufr on the rest. So each one of them would make takfir on the other ones. And they're basically, whose common ground was overemphasis of the use of the mind. What was the key principle of the Mu'tazila? Aql ala al-naql. They said, we want to use our logic over just following the Quran and Sunnah. They didn't want to just make ittiba' of Kitab al-Sunnah, right? So Imam Ahmad, when you read about his debate with them, he would give them from the Quran and they would throw some logical answer back. And they would say, what about this philosophical answer? Then he would say, give me something from the Quran and Sunnah so I can answer you. I'm not going to philosophize with you. And this is the key characteristic of the Muslim, is that we make taslim, we surrender ourselves to the Quran and the authentic Sunnah. We don't say that it has to make sense to me, otherwise I won't accept it. No. My limited mind is not powerful enough. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that knows best. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders me to keep a beard, I keep a beard. It doesn't have to do with whether it makes sense logically, whether it keeps your face warm or not. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes salah, I make salah. It doesn't have to be, oh, it's good for your posture, and it's good for this, and it's good for that. Many people today, when you tell them, in Islam you do this, they tell you, what is the benefit in that? Obedience to Allah. No, I know that. But what is the scientific benefit? I don't know. There may be some, or there may be some that we don't know. But we obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we obey the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam without having to put it to the test or whether it makes sense to me or not. Right? Now, the Mu'tazila were the opposite. They said if it makes sense, we'll accept it. If it doesn't, even if it's from the Quran, even from the authentic hadith, we'll reject it. And you will find this today in our time. I mean, it sounds so crazy, right? But many people today, you speak to them and you tell them, we can't eat this or we have to do this. No, brother. See, I did a lot of study and why they didn't eat pork in the old days, because it wasn't clean, and today it's clean, so it's okay. Or why they dressed like this, or they did this, or they prayed like that, or they sat down and ate. It's because they didn't have chairs. All these kinds of things that they try to bring the logic and they try to take the ahkam away. And not just that, for example, in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, still today in their madaris, mantaq is being taught, right? Which is logical deduction and arguments based on logic. This is from the Mu'tazila. This is an effect of the Mu'tazila still alive today. Where you have these theological debates, and actual subject will study kalam. And this is kalam. Kalam was this philosophy, which was forbidden by the earlier generations. And the ulama from the tabi'een and the tabi'een that were in that time, they all fought against this. But these effects, unfortunately, are still there.
Is it like the person we visit has that kind of ideology?
Which person?
Does mean he's on tafsir of the Quran?
Which person?
You know the guy in the...
It's not necessary to do that right now.
I know, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is...
Well, you'll probably be better off just naming a person because you cast doubt on a lot of people that you visit. So
Anyway,
just learn not to mention it.
You do, I honestly don't remember who you're talking about, but anyway, you do have people today that for example, they say we need fiqh al-jadid, we need a new fiqh. They say the old fiqh is outdated, we need a new fiqh. When you tell them, does this mean that you want to look at the situations that have come today and find ruling for that? They say no, we need a whole new method of deriving fiqh for our time, right? And this is something very popular now. This idea that in our time, we don't, in this time and this, and the logical, what was the, like one brother in Saudi was telling me, he told me, for ahkam, you have to look at what was the logical reason for that hukam, and whether it's still applicable today or not. Like when we discuss moon sighting, we tell them, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to sight the moon, and when you sight the moon, start fasting, when you sight the moon, stop fasting, so we'll do that. They said, no, now we can calculate, and that's better. We say, no, the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is the best way.
Was there like a hadith for that person responded like the Prophet said we're not a nation of counting or something like that?
Yeah.
So you can say Muslim, right?
What about it?
So they're going to use that hadith like we couldn't count like the Arabs are going to
No, so this hadith is actually a proof against that, saying that we are not a nation who uses calculations.
Why don't you just
The month is like this and like this. When you see the moon, that's it. It's not the Sahaba; they weren't literate Sahaba. But the point was, this is not what you put a condition to. Anyway, from their beliefs, which was based on aqal, not naqal, is that they said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes have no meaning or reality. So they started saying, in philosophy, if you take anything, you can philosophize it away. Right? If you say that the yad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a jama'ah, so it could mean this, and it could mean that, and in the end there's no yad. If they say about wajh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they said it could mean this, and it could mean that, in the end there's no wajh. If you say the aynain or any sifat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to himself, they would philosophize it until they just made it into like a natural force or something. And they would do away with all of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through logic.
So they say it's like a metaphysical form or something like that? Or
Exactly, it was a metaphor.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, but they didn't say like for example, it doesn't mean anything?
So in the end, that's where you would get to,
Oh.
right? I mean, na'udhu billah, one of their writings I was reading, it said that in the end they said that you cannot restrict Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to any place,
Oh.
and that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere. But they said because everywhere is also a place, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is nowhere. So it's just this philosophical, going round and round, which didn't benefit the ummah. The key to our aqidah and to our belief as the Muslims is atba' of kitab and sunnah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa, we believe in it. We don't ask questions, we don't ask how, we don't try to philosophize. We believe in it as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed it. Next, they said anyone who perpetrates a major sin is neither a kafir nor a Muslim but will remain in the hellfire forever. This was another one of their beliefs, and this is one of the things that they began with, as we mentioned. So they said the Jannah is only for the tahireen, the people who are tahir, right? And the one who commits a major sin, he can never be cleansed of it, according to them. He said because he's done something that's violated the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how can this major violation not have an accountability such that it would stop them from going to Jannah? It was all a philosophical debate. There was no dalil for it.
I have a question. Was that created just because of lack of knowledge? Because doesn't it say in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives everything?
So like I said, they would tell you, okay, but that doesn't make sense to us. How can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive a zani? How can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive somebody who murders people?
By forgiving you, that's it. Alright? Makes sense.
Like I said, why that makes sense to you is because you believe in the Quran over anything else. You don't have to have the Quran be under your logical scan or filtering.
Yeah.
This is the correct way, but to them it was not the correct way. The punishment of the grave, they believed in it, but they said it's not a part of Aqidah because there are ahad narrations, and you will find this in many of the groups today where they will not accept the ahad narrations, including Hizb ut-Tahrir and others.
What about Quraniyin?
The Quraniyin, they are a reincarnation of the Mu'tazila as well.
Because remember my teacher, he believed in this right here.
Exactly. So like I said, the Quraniyin, the Hizb ut-Tahrir and their Aqaid problem, all of it is reincarnation of the Mu'tazila.
But they believed in that, so they accepted the Ethan at the end of the day, right?
They did, but they wouldn't accept ahad hadith.
It's only mutawatir.
And even mutawatir, they filter it. Whatever makes sense to them, right? Rafidah have the same problem. Then they had ahad hadith,
One chain, huh?
not necessarily, less than mutawatir.
Okay.
Inshallah, we'll go over the mustalah lesson and then I'd have to get into like 15-20 minutes to give full. But basically, not enough chains. Mashhur, Aziz, Gharib are all ahad hadith. MashaAllah. Yeah, Rawafidah. So they have the same thing. If it makes sense to them, then they'll accept it. If not, they won't. There's no sahih da'if. A part of their misguidance was that they believed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must reward good deeds with paradise and must reward evil deeds with hellfire. So we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive who He wants, reward who He wants, and punish who He wants. It's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His mercy. But the Mu'tazila believe that if you do a good deed, it's your haqq now. That you must get Jannah. And if you do a bad deed, you cannot be forgiven. A major sin. You must be punished. So we know from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that nobody will enter Jannah based upon their deeds, but only upon the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So you said that if someone does a major sin, then he does not get forgiven, he gets Jahannam forever. What about
I said that?
No, I'm saying
they said, okay.
Well, what if they, what is it? It doesn't, when someone says Zani, when someone comes
Alaykum as-salam.
what's it called? By the had being carried out, doesn't that person's sin become forgiven or what?
So again,
Islamically,
yes.
Okay.
Also by making tawbah. By Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgiving him.
Exactly.
By the dua of the mu'mineen for the hardship that there is many ways for sins to be forgiven. Maybe some hardship he went through, maybe some sickness he went through. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave his sins, right? Maybe the mercy of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved some deed of his and He forgave him, right?
It's just I can't grasp what kind of retardation.
I'm glad you can't. If you could, then there'd be a problem. So,
with their ideology, if you would become kafir, according to their ideology, there would be no tawbah or what?
no.
Then how are they?
But again, I mean, we're not even discussing kufr right now. They're not saying the person's kafir.
Right, if they fall into one of their...
Wallahu alam if we can make tawbah for them. They said people will enter Jannah based upon their deeds that they have done. So this was a part of their misguidance, that they believe that Jannah cannot be achieved through just the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but only through your deeds. And this is the key, that when you do deeds, it becomes your right. It's like, they put everything in a very dunya type of perspective, that if I give you money, then you have to sell me your product, for example, right? But we don't buy Jannah from our deeds. Jannah is given to us through the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We